Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Color Forward Roundtable discussion all about advancing Latinas in the workplace. My name is Elisa Monjadas, producer of Color Forward, and I am here with my two co-founders, Rosa Santos and Merari Simeon, also from Color Forward. And we are joined by a special guest today, Alma del Toro. She has been one of our earliest interviewees on the Color Forward podcast. And Alma is the founder and president of Blue Bull Energy. She is also the CEO of Blue Wave International Supplier Development Platform. Let me just give you a few more facts about Alma to let you know why she's such a special guest for us today. She had both of her enterprises are US certified minority owned businesses. They operate internationally and are committed to making a difference building businesses and communities. Within her client portfolio, large organizations such as international oil companies, national oil companies, NGOs, and governments. Alma's impactful work has been featured in Bloomberg, World Oil, Offshore Technology Magazine, Energy and Commerce. She is a board member of Semvita Factory, a CO2 negative biotechnology startup, Rice University School of Mathematics project, Amigos de las Americas NGO, and Grupo Ecologista, Gelonios. All right, thank you so much, Alma, for being here. We are so happy to have you as our special guest.
Thank you. It's always an honor and a pleasure and a joy to be here with Color Forward.
Awesome. Well, let me just talk through how this is going to work out today. I have a couple of questions for each of you. And so I'll give you a couple of minutes to answer the questions. And then any other comments you have, feel free to jump in once the other person is done. And I feel like I'm the presidential moderator, the debate moderator right now. You have 2 minutes. Please do not interrupt.
We have to be nice to each other and polite.
Yeah. But actually, this is a lot more casual than that. So I want to first start out with one of the themes that we've seen on the Color Forward podcast, where we're highlighting successful women who have overcome cultural barriers and mastered the art of resilience. We've seen that a lot of women have really mastered the idea of trusting their inner voice. So let's start with, actually, hold on. Let's start with you, Merari, just to change it up a little bit. How do you trust your inner voice and how do you recognize it?
Wow. So, it all depends on the mental stage that you're at, or maybe the personal and professional journey. I constantly do two things. Number one, when I feel strongly about something, I test my inner voice through my faith. For example, does it edify others? Does it help others? Does it help me? And the other thing that I do is I engage people I trust for advice. Ultimately, I end up making the decision, but I think it's critical to get different perspectives and different point of views for from other people that you trust, that I trust. And that's what I do when I hear my inner voice tell me, hey, go for this. Again, it all depends on that mental stage that you're at in that journey, whether it's personal or professional. Because sometimes I may think, hey, that's the inner voice, I'm going to go for it. And it may not be the right thing for me at that right time. That's why I think it's critical to engage people that you trust to give you a different perspective, even if you make up the decision at the end.
So you're saying listen to what you have to say and then put it back on others as a sounding board to kind of see where it falls.
Absolutely. I think especially when you speak to people that you trust, that will give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, it allows you to see the full picture. Again, it goes back to, what if I'm having a bad day and my inner voice is saying, forget this, I'm moving on to something new. But in reality, that may not be what is best for me at the time. Again, I go back to that mental space of when the inner voice is speaking to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Alma, for you, specifically in business, you serve on a lot of boards. You have to make a lot of big decisions all the time. How do you trust your inner voice when it comes to business decisions?
So for me, it's I tend to get a physical reaction, which is the gut feel. And so I listen to that. And I need to have the right information and ask the right questions. So I will have to be educated on the topic before the decision gets made. So do some research. So I do listen to my gut feel, but I validate what is the information telling me in terms of, do I make this choice versus the other one? Or in my case, do I make a recommendation for a client or sitting on the board? And I do a little bit of, as well, like Menati, I test it with people that I trust. And sometimes I'm hearing things that don't go with whatever that physical reaction is telling me I should do. And so at the end of the day, as well, the decision is mine, but I do try to educate myself so that I have the facts and the right information and data so that I understand, at least if I'm going to make a decision, what are the consequences and what is the plan and what are the risks involved. So I'm making an educated decision knowing that whatever is the outcome, I can overcome it at some point, or I can live with it, if it goes wrong, basically.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions to ask myself and others is, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to?
Mm.
And that's how I judge things a lot. Rosa, what about you?
I don't trust my inner voice, you guys. It's not that I trust my inner voice. I think I inquire quite a bit, right? I'm one that likes to ask a lot of questions. And sometimes for me, that inner voice is more, that other voice that is telling me how things will not work out. And I want to very proactively suppress that thinking so I can continue to ask the questions, engage in an active inquiry mode, if you like, to learn and gain perspectives. And if it's about making a decision, I don't generally actually go with my gut feel. I'm not that kind of individual. I really like to, I will have an inclination, of course, and I have a bias. But I like to make sure that I have all the pertinent data and information that will lead me to, draw the right insights that will help me, make that decision. So I tend to, as I said, not necessarily trust immediately what my gut feel is saying. I want to make sure that, I have everything, well considered before I jump into something. I would like to be one of those, like, I like the why not situation. I think I do that a little bit, but I like to know, it's like, yeah, why not? But let me check it.
Yeah.
Let me check it's gonna work out. I have all my contingencies in place.
Alma, earlier when we first interviewed you for Color Forward, you told us this amazing story about your fifth grade teacher encouraging you to dream against all odds and ask yourself, if there are no limits, what can you do? Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Sure. So I think I've shared with you guys that I'm dyslexic. And so math and things are very complicated. My brain just doesn't function that way. So I need a lot of room for creativity and space. Then I can make things happen. And so I think this professor was able to tell that And so he didn't measure my intelligence based on the equation or whatever he was giving me. He could spot on that my brain didn't function that way. And so I think for me, allowing me the space to actually pour what I was thinking, and I was at a young age, I was like 8 years old. Nobody had asked me before what I wanted to do. And so I never thought about it. And so he gave me that canvas, right? And he said, no limitations, just go at it. And we were having this conversation with my son as I was driving him today to school, because I was telling him I was going to do this. And I think the fact that somebody allowed me to imagine and give me the permission to do that has served me well, because I keep using that strategy. If I can imagine it, it means I can do it. It doesn't mean it's going to come easy, but it does mean it's possible. If it's in my head, it's possible. And so to me, that was the biggest lesson he gave me, because actually what I wrote in that piece of paper that I wanted to do, it's exactly what I ended up doing like 25 years later. It didn't dawn on me as I was going through the journey, but I look back and I'm like, dang it, I should have saved that piece of paper. It was powerful. It was powerful.
That's incredible that you even, number one, that you had someone in your life to help you dream big against all odds. And then two, that you did it and it happened. How does that impact you today? Like, how do you still keep dreaming big?
As I said, if it's in my head and I imagine, and I think it's just the way my brain works, I tend to be always on the positive side of everything is possible and we can do it. And it has not always been that way. I've gotten slapped and kicked pretty hard, but I just don't let that take that away from me. So even if I'm going to create an enterprise or the vision, for Blue Bull, how do I create businesses and communities in the energy sector? And everybody told me that was an oxymoron. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. And the same thing, with anything else, because I'm entering in that space that it somehow it hasn't been created, but that's the space that I do the best, because there's no rules, there's no boundaries other than respect, of course, and your ethics and things like that, integrity. But within that space, it's where I operate better, because I don't have to follow a path or do something. And it's just the way it is, that it works for me. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but along the way, you build the stamina, right? That even though you're going to create this vision and big dream, I'm already expecting tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever you can think of. But I just don't walk away from it. I just stand full front, and I know that it's a matter of time. And I just have to get through whatever storm a day at a time. And
sometimes
I don't know, it's
storms.
just, yeah, especially in Houston. Yeah, we do go through those a lot. I'm going to have to charge my phone. I'm sorry, but my battery now is saying it's low. Sorry.
Okay.
You see me sideways.
Minati, what about you? Have there been times in your life where you have dreamt big against all odds?
Yes, and I think it goes back to what Alma said is I remember being little and younger and wanting to buy my parents a home. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but that is something that I have been able to accomplish. And I think when I look back during those times, I didn't put a limit on myself, right? I just said, I'm going to do it and I'll figure it out. Now, it was messy, the process, right? Because I didn't know, or I didn't have anybody to direct me. But today, one of the things that I try to do when I think of accomplishing something or when I get an idea, I try really hard not to put limits on myself, because I truly believe that does block your imagination and it doesn't allow you to think bigger. I think the other two things that I do, well, the one thing that I do is I ask myself two questions: is the decision that I'm making a wise decision, or the action, and how is it bringing me closer to the goal? Because I really do believe that the actions that I take either bring me closer to the goal or move me away from the goal, whether that's personal or professionally, in my career or with my family. I really do believe that those two questions have helped guide me. But again, it didn't happen at the beginning. I didn't know better. I just knew that was my dream, and I didn't put any limits on it.
You just push forward.
Yes. Now I do it a little smarter. I push forward a little smarter, but but I try not to put limitations, because I believe that our imagination is so powerful. And when we set limits, we don't even realize that we're the ones blocking ourselves from reaching our goals. So I try. It's not easy. I'll lie to you if I say it's easy, but I try as much as I can to just leave my imagination open. And I feel that that gives me creativity, allows me to be creative.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely seeing a theme about pushing beyond your limits and giving yourself that creative space and not allowing yourself to get in the way.
Yes.
Rosa, I'm curious for you, what about, has there ever been a time where you felt other people were putting limits on you? So maybe you weren't putting on limits on yourself, but outside forces were? And how do you deal with it too when that happens?
Yeah. So let me, before I answer that, let me just piggyback on what these two ladies were talking about in terms of dreaming big. I think it starts with when you're a kid and how you're brought up to think big. And there's tons of research that actually says that when you entertain a vision or an idea of what's possible, it opens up a different way of thinking and realizing specific actions that will take you there. It might not necessarily put you in a place where that vision will be exactly realized in the way that you thought it possible, but it will definitely move you into a direction that will get you closer to what your goal, your idea, your belief might be. And that is so important, that we not only do it with our own kids, but also it's very important in the way that we engage with others and with those that we're trying to lift up as professionals, as friends, as people in your network. Always asking them, what is it that you would like to do? What is it that you see yourself doing? Because it truly makes different connections in your brain that would allow you to really push through and leave fear behind and open up a completely different perspective of doing things. Going back to the limitations, I think it's also, I think we always do, right? I think no matter who you are, there's always been somebody on your life who may have told you that you were not capable, right? I had that. Or that the fact, I mean, in my case, I was the eternal student, right? As my parents used to say, stop collecting degrees and just go find yourself a job. when I was in college. But for me, it was important, for instance, always pushing through to what I thought it was true to me and what was going to help me get into the right pathway to achieve what I wanted. So always, when you have somebody else reflecting or projecting on you what they think of you, it's important that you check in with somebody else and you say, hey, am I mad? Just keep me honest, right? Go and check in that what you think is good or what you think is your path, that you have, those fans that will be rallying you and will be, applauding your efforts along the way, because otherwise it's gonna be very, very challenging. So that's how I would say how I've overcome sometimes those limitations or limiting beliefs that others may have had on me, to really just allowing myself together. And I would say, when it comes to dreaming, when it comes to visioning, when it comes to setting goals for yourself, it's not just about your professional life. it's also about your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, you guys, I love putting like fun goals for me and my family, and especially for me being so far away from my loved ones. Always something to look forward to gives me a completely different perspective on the actual present. And it gives me the ability to think about some other thing that I need to be working towards. It might be a trip. It might be like some fun travel that I might want to do with my family. It might be, I don't know, it might be celebrating a birthday, or a silly celebration as about some. It's something that will give you that spark and that, you know, sense of possibility that there's something else on the other side. It will change your mindset to become a bit more positive and getting into that more of a growth mindset that I think we need today.
Yeah, I think that there's research behind the theory of anticipation. So it literally opens up your brain when you're anticipating something and being able to look forward and look ahead. So it's super important. I'm so glad you brought up the personal and professional, because as professionals, it's important to have big dreams in all areas of your life. And that's what propels you forward. That's where we talk about knowing your why and knowing your purpose and allowing that to guide you. And I know all three of you definitely have talked about that core being leading you forward. With that said, what are some ways that you can embrace possibilities? So along this line, Rosa, you specifically mentioned mindset, and I think that is growth mindset looks at everything as possibility instead of how it feels right in front of you. So I'm going to turn this over to Alma and ask you, what is the best mindset that you have when you feel like you've hit a brick wall? Do you have any tips or tricks for us?
Yeah, whatever it is that I'm going to be thinking of or stopping to reflect on, I start, well, okay, I'm not giving up. So that's the thing. So with that in mind, what do I do? But giving up is never an option for me. It's never been an option on anything, whether it's personal or professional. So before I frame the reflection or the plan or the rethinking, I start from that point. Okay, if I'm not going to give up, then what do I do from here? And with that, it doesn't mean that I'm stubborn enough to go facing forward the hurricane. What that means is I know the hurricane's coming at me or the roadblock, but how do I recalibrate? If I'm not going to give up, what am I willing to adjust so that I can still get what I'm chasing? It may not be like the full rainbow colors, but can I live with 3 of them instead of all 7, 8 colors? And so I recalibrate and I readjust, but I don't give up. And so for me, it's been very powerful. If anything that I'm going to approach when I'm hitting a roadblock, that's my starting point. Versus maybe I should just not do this. Maybe I don't even go there. That's never an option for my thinking. Sometimes that is the end result, despite of how I recalibrate, but that's never my starting point.
I love that. Don't give up.
It's corny, but it's very effective.
I know. I'm like thinking of all these situations in my life where I'm like, okay, I can't give up. I love starting like that. I've never really thought those exact terms.
It's
Midadi,
like
what do you think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Alma.
No. This movie about the Apollo 13, when they got stuck up in, space, it was not an option not to bring them back. That's been such an inspirational movie for me. It, just not bringing them back home safe was not an option. And so I don't know if you remember that scene when they throw everything on the table that they have up there, and then they have to figure it out how they're going to use that, because that's the only thing they have, and they have to come back home safe. So it completely shifted the way people were thinking and approaching a situation, because whatever resources, they're no longer there. Everything has changed, but your goal is the same: bring those folks back safe home. And to me, that is such an inspirational scene that has sit in my head, because that's kind of basically what I was trying to say when I said I'm not going to give up. So what are the pieces I now have, and how do I still arrive where I need to? Sorry, that's it.
No, I mean,
That's great.
that's where innovation comes in. When your
It-
resources leave, that's when you get really creative.
yeah.
No, absolutely. And I definitely agree. I am of the mindset that I can do it. I can do all things. And I think about it, and maybe it's because I'm been in so many soccer games for my daughter, but is you don't change the game, right? You don't change the goal. You know that the goal is to score against the other team and that the ball can only go in one place. However, how you get there is different, and how you strategize the players and the people around you or the support that you have is very different. So I always tell people, do not change your goal, just change how you get there. And you probably
Mhm.
need to strategize differently along the way. And that's the way that I work too. And doing the many things that we all do, right? We're all executive women. We are doing things for the community. I have to think hard about, okay, I'm not going to change my goal. This is really important to me. My job is important to me. Working in the community is important to me. How do I get it done? How do I make that goal and get that win? And that's really how I look at it as well. And I think it goes back to the imagination, right? I don't limit myself. I just say, okay, how am I going to make it? The same way that I see the coach do for my daughter's team. If they have strong headwinds, right, or strong players coming at them, they end up using different ones, or they end up changing their strategy to win the game. The key thing is,
Right.
and I agree with Alma 100%, don't give up. Just find a different way.
Yeah. Also, I'll say one of the things that I say all the time is if he or she can do it, why can't I? Right? Is that sense of, we're all human beings. And sometimes we just need to look around and see, okay, they're doing it, so can I? Like that's for me, that's a huge motivator in terms of in terms of when I'm hitting a wall and I think there is no other way by giving up. I'm thinking, no, but they didn't give up. So if they could do it, I can do it. And probably I can do it better. But it's that way of also how I think you need to search within yourself what pulls you forward, and doesn't make you stop, right? And for us, I mean, for some of us, might be that inner strength and inner strategy that we might have. For others, you may just have, again, to rely on other folks that tell you, hey, you can do it. I believe in you and you can do it. And you might just need to make that phone call to get somebody to tell you that you can do it. So it's just really self-awareness and knowing more about yourself and what it is that you need at a given moment, so you don't get, and especially during this time, so we need a lot of that, because some of us are spending a lot of time on our own, right? And understanding, again, what is it that motivates you, or how can you get motivated? What is it that is going to pull you out of where you are, so in that moment you can actually, grab it and leverage it.
The only other thing that I would add is I go back to the game. You don't have to do it alone. You can still achieve what you want to achieve and have a whole team of people around you to make it come to life. Look what we're doing here. We're doing this together. And yet it is a personal dream of mine to do something like this. And we're all doing it together. I'm sure you love what you're doing too here with me today, because this is something that is all dear to us, is empowering women, empowering Latinas. So keeping in mind and having that open mind that we don't have to do it alone it's critical to having an open mind about achieving your goals.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that some of the themes that I'm hearing today are dream big without limitations, don't give up, and don't do it alone.
Yes.
So as we close out today, I would like to hear from the three of you, just any encouraging words that you would have for women, Latinas who want to advance in the workplace, who are dreaming big right now. If they're watching, if any of you who are watching this, you are a dreamer, you want to get ahead, you want to move forward. And that is why we've brought this group of amazing women to help you get there. So you're already on the right track by being here today. So with the three of you, any final words on
Yeah.
dreaming big, dreaming together?
Yeah, I would say dreaming big, dream together, and share your dream. I think the one thing that we haven't added to that conversation is, yeah, it's all great when you dream, but you need to share that dream, and you need to say it out loud, so that others will be helping you to make it a reality, and at the same time make you accountable, right? To fulfill on your dream. If you leave your dream in your head, or as I said, in your drawer, it will not happen. So dream it,
Exactly.
dream it big, but share it out loud so people know, and they'll give you so much power when you do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank
I
you.
love what Rosa says. So I'm going to piggyback totally what Rosa just said. It's a huge differentiator and game changer, because you almost put the whole accountability on you, and also you're asking the universe to align things. And I think Rosa said early on, your brain just works differently when you say out loud your vision. I would also say trust yourself. Do listen to feedback because it is constructive, but do not let that define you. Do not let that be a limitation. We all have areas that we're always going to work on. Nobody's perfect. So take the bits and pieces that serve you, to serve the cause that you're chasing, and the ones that they don't, just completely disregard them and trust yourself. No matter what, just believe in yourself, and just push forward.
The only thing that I would add is, do not trade your dreams for beans. And what I mean by that is, these dreams are obviously things that, if they come true, if you make them come true, they will bring you joy. Don't trade them for little things in life. Keep working, and that would be it, really. Do not trade your dreams for beans when you can have the whole farm.
Yeah, don't settle for less.
Exactly.
Don't settle for less. Dream big, dream together, share your dreams. Well, I just want to thank each of you today for joining us. And a special thanks again to Alma for being our honored guest today for this discussion on dreaming big. You are the perfect guest to talk about this because you continue to dream big every day. And I want to thank everyone who is watching. We are all here to encourage you along the way. And that is one of the reasons why we developed the Color Forward podcast. So you can hear episodes on colorforward.com, and make sure to keep an eye out on social media at Color Forward Pod and all the platforms. And you can find out more about upcoming workshops there. Thank you again for joining us.